Finding a true RTS game on the Play Store is honestly a nightmare. It almost feels like the genre doesn't even exist there. But the truth is there are a few hidden gems buried in the Play Store, and believe me, they're actually really good. So today we're going to check out all of them. Make sure to leave a like and let's get started. This is one of those hidden games buried inside the Play Store, and it actually has several different versions available. Today we're going to talk about Viking Village. The truth is, this is a pretty good strategy game and it offers different ways to play. For example, you can choose a tower defense mode or even a more classic RTS experience. Inside the game, you simply choose your mode and jump straight into battles against other players. I think this is probably the weakest game on the list when it comes to graphics, and it can also be a little difficult to understand at first because it doesn't follow the traditional RTS formula. However, once you get used to how it works, the game becomes much easier to understand, and that's one of its biggest positive points. For me, this is easily the best classic RTS you'll find on the Play Store. It's been receiving updates for a long time now. Let's talk about War Legends. There's no denying that this game took a lot of inspiration from Warcraft 3. In fact, it feels very similar, from the story revolving around the conflict between orcs and humans to the overall gameplay mechanics. The game features a campaign mode, and it's probably one of the best campaigns on this list. It does a great job of teaching you the mechanics while also telling a solid story. Of course, the game really shines in its PvP modes, especially the excellent 3 versus 3 battles. The controls have been optimized to work well on mobile, making the experience much smoother. Even so, it still delivers everything you'd expect from a proper RTS. It's definitely one of the few classic RTS games on the Play Store that's truly worth playing. The game that feels the most like Age of Empires on this list, and probably on the entire Play Store, is War of Empire. I'm not exactly sure why, but this game almost never shows up on the Play Store unless you search for it by name. Once you do, you'll find it. Honestly, it feels like a mobile version of Age of Empires because everything is so similar, from the gameplay to the sound effects and even the way you upgrade your civilization. Keep in mind that it's a fully online game where you can play 1v1 or even 2v2 matches. Unlike a typical Age of Empires match on PC though, the battles here are much faster. Most matches last no more than 10 minutes and the gameplay is very intuitive, especially if you've played an RTS before. Unfortunately, this game has been removed from the Play Store, but you can still play it today. Let's talk about War of Kings. The game's original idea was centered around one-on-one PvP matches, where you had to build your base as quickly as possible while your opponent was doing the exact same thing on the other side of the map. It was a straightforward 1v1 RTS experience. Since it's no longer available on the Play Store, you'll only be able to play the offline version nowadays. It's probably one of the simplest games on this list. Everything is very intuitive, and the game doesn't have a lot of features or mechanics. For example, there are only a few buildings, a single basic warrior unit, and the maps are fairly limited. Even so, it's still a classic RTS that's definitely worth checking out. WARAGE is pretty well hidden on the Play Store, and just like the other RTS games on this list, it's definitely worth checking out. This one is a true classic, so let's talk about it.
Commander, at once, sire!
One interesting thing is that there are 2 versions available on the Play Store. There's a paid version that focuses more on offline gameplay, and of course you can also play the online version. There's no big mystery here. This is a classic medieval style RTS. You start with 4 units and need to build up your base as quickly as possible because your opponent is doing the exact same thing. The game also includes a campaign that helps you understand the story while teaching you the basics of how to play. That said, the game really shines in battle mode and of course in the online modes, where you can even compete against other players in PvP. Maybe the most underrated game on this list. A lot of people don't even know that it's an RTS. Let's talk about Northgard. This happens because of its campaign mode, where you help a group of people survive the harsh winter of Northgard. But the truth is, if you've already played it, you know that the campaign is mainly there to introduce you to the different clans and explain what makes each one unique. Because what really shines is the PvP and battle modes. At the same time, it's true that this isn't a traditional RTS. In fact, it's a very different experience, and I would even say it's a brilliant approach to the genre. The game is available on multiple platforms and features shared servers, with many players still enjoying its PvP battles. And honestly, it's not that difficult to learn the basics and eventually memorize the more than 15 clans available in the game. Heavily inspired by a game called Command & Conquer, this is an extremely complete RTS experience. Let's talk about Red Sun RTS. Unlike many other games on this list, this is probably the one that feels the most like a PC RTS. It's a very complex game with a huge number of buttons, options, and mechanics for you to manage. This can definitely scare away more casual players, but that's exactly what attracts people who truly enjoy the RTS genre. The game features a challenging campaign mode that can be difficult, especially when you're still learning how everything works. I highly recommend giving this game a try, but keep in mind that it may take some time to get used to because of how deep and complex the gameplay is. And maybe you've already come across this game simply because its name is so straightforward. Let's talk about RTS Siege Up. A lot of people think this is one of the only RTS games you can find on the Playstore because of its very obvious name. The most interesting thing is that it's a very simplified RTS experience. That doesn't mean it's a bad game, but compared to more complete RTS titles, it is definitely much simpler. For example, gathering resources like food for your base is much more straightforward, and even the combat happens much faster. But honestly, this type of gameplay often works really well on Android devices, and since this is one of the most popular RTS games available on mobile, it might be exactly what you're looking for in this video. Maybe one of the games I like the least on this list, but still a very well-known title. Let's talk about Rusted Warfare. This is a paid game on the Play Store, and I also found out that it has a PC version, which is pretty impressive. Unlike many other games on this list, it focuses much more on a modern military style with tanks, aircraft, and machines instead of a medieval setting. Even though it's a paid game, it still offers online modes where you can play with other people, especially PvP battles. At the same time, the game features several different campaign modes, but the PvP experience is where it really shines. Personally, I prefer strategy games with a medieval theme, but there's no denying that Rusted Warfare has become a very popular RTS experience. This game is perfect for anyone who enjoys massive RTS battles. Let's talk about Shadow of Empire. Unlike some of the other games on this list, this one focuses much more on the battles themselves rather than base building. Usually the maps have limited resources to collect and most of the structures are already prepared for you. However, what makes this game stand out is the scale of its battles. It can place up to 400 units on the battlefield and you can control each one in a very specific way. This game is all about delivering huge RTS combat experiences. Honestly, this is something I've mostly seen on PC games, and that's exactly why Shadow of Empire is worth trying. The combat system is really impressive. Maybe one of the most famous games on this list when it comes to offline experiences, let's talk about Iron Marines. This is one of the few games here that actually has a great story. You are colonizing a new planet, but this new world is filled with dangerous creatures that you need to defeat. Throughout the campaign missions, you'll experience different types of gameplay, including a tower defense style that feels very familiar, as well as RTS mechanics. Of course, it also features a more classic RTS experience available both in the mission mode and in the game's battle mode. A lot of people remember this game precisely because it's one of those RTS titles available on the Play Store that also delivers a really enjoyable story mode.
Lock and load. Proceeding.
Solid copy.
Right away. Understood. 5x5.
Late Night RTS is another one of those extremely hidden games on the Play Store that only appears if you actually search for its name. And let's talk about it. This is another very simple RTS game on our list, but it works really well because it's faster and more adapted for mobile devices. If you've ever played any RTS before, especially the more complex ones, you'll probably understand this one very quickly. You start with 4 characters and need to upgrade your village as fast as possible while your enemy is doing the same thing on the other side of the map. However, this game also includes specific objectives that you need to complete, along with NPCs scattered around the map. It's a relatively simple game, but it works really well, especially for players looking for a more casual RTS experience on mobile. Kingdom Maker delivers a great mix of strategy, city management, and even RTS gameplay. Let's take a look at it. Unlike some of the more traditional RTS games on this list, you'll also take part in battles, whether you're defending your territory or launching attacks on enemy locations. But of course, that's not all the game has to offer. It features a well-designed city building and management system, giving you plenty to do outside of combat. Everything you build takes place in the online world, and there's even PvP, where you can battle against other players. It basically works as an online RTS while also delivering a solid city management experience. I honestly love this game, and of course its fast-paced gameplay is one of the things that makes it stand out. Let's talk about Magic War 3x3. This is a full PvP game where you only play against other players, and the most impressive thing is that there are still many people playing it every day. The matches usually happen on 2 versus 2 maps, and it might be the fastest game on this entire list. Matches can last around 5 minutes, and if you don't prepare quickly, you'll probably lose. There isn't much mystery here. You start with a few characters and need to upgrade your village as fast as possible because your opponent is doing the exact same thing right in front of you. I think the biggest thing that may surprise you about this game is how quickly everything happens. You'll probably lose your first few matches, but once you understand the mechanics, you'll start getting used to the pace. Maybe the simplest game on this list, it almost feels like an unfinished project. Let's talk about Nomadic Conquest. This is probably a game that is still receiving updates, although I'm not entirely sure. What you can notice is that it still needs more features and content. Aside from that, it's also an RTS with a more classic style. You start with only 4 characters and need to quickly develop your kingdom to deal with external threats. However, unlike some of the other RTS games on this list that are much more complete, this one is much simpler and faster to play. That doesn't mean it's a bad game, but the truth is, if you're looking for a deep and complex RTS experience, this probably isn't the right choice for you. This is an RTS game that you rarely see anyone criticizing. In fact, many people even consider it to be a very underrated title. Let's talk about Art of War 3. This is another game on our list that offers a very complete RTS experience. However, many people only remember it because of its PvP mode. The truth is, the game also features a campaign that helps you learn how to play, plenty of upgrades to unlock, and even a battle pass system. But of course, PvP is without a doubt the biggest highlight of the game, and surprisingly, there are still many players active every day. The PvP matches are fast, smooth, and feature intense 3v3 battles. You will probably struggle a little at the beginning, but after you understand the mechanics, it can easily become your next addiction because the game is as complex as a true RTS should be. Many people look at this game and think it's just a bad parody of Warcraft 3, but I'm here to tell you that it's actually a really good RTS. Let's talk about Cartoon Craft. This game is also a more classic RTS experience featuring a major conflict between orcs and humans. However, unlike other games where this conflict usually remains the main focus, here the situation becomes much more serious, forcing both sides to unite against a greater threat. The game's story is quite funny, and visually it doesn't really give the impression of a serious strategy game, but I can say for sure that this is one of the best RTS games on our list when it comes to content and gameplay depth. There are plenty of things to do and explore. Unfortunately, the game ends up turning many players away because it looks like a more childish experience at first glance. EXPANSE is one of those RTS games that manages to bring the true essence of a PC RTS experience to Android. Let's talk about it. Unlike many other games on this list, this one takes a more futuristic approach. You'll control vehicles, cannons, ships, and even soldiers equipped with different weapons. Compared to some other RTS games here, this one can be much more difficult to understand at first because it has a lot of depth. There are many details, from resources you need to collect on the map to countless upgrades and improvements for your units, but of course that's exactly what makes it unique, and the campaign mode helps you learn a lot about the game, but there are things you'll only truly understand when you jump into battle mode. The game offers both online and offline versions, and it's an extremely complete RTS experience for mobile. And that's it for the best RTS games you can find on the Play Store. Even though this genre is not as popular on mobile, there are still some amazing hidden gems worth trying. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more game recommendations. See you in the next one!